training, and more training means more opportunities to make a mistake. The Hertfordshire MP was one of the 10 highest-earning MPs last year, receiving more than £80,000 for outside work. They are literally laughing in our faces. They must have had a bet on as to who could come up with the most ridiculous excuse. Heads they win, tails we lose. 0345 6060 973. It's just past 11:30 on LBC. The news headlines with Serena Farrow.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Words, more words.
It's all just words. Philip texts, the Parliamentary Standards Committee is an oxymoronic organisation. Yeah, and they're overseeing a bunch of oxymorons. Alice texts, David Cameron's just got a new job driving a lorry. That's right. Yes. So he has, yeah. James texts, in other news, turkeys have voted against Christmas, declaring it to be impractical. That is what turkeys said. Right, let's have a call in. Wait a minute. Who's been waiting the longest? Totally fair about this. Regent's Park. Hello, Vance.
Hi, Nick. Thank you, as ever, for keeping us entertained and sane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, your mention of Britannia Unchained has sort of unlocked a floodgate in my mind, really.
A floodgate in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, who are these intellectual and moral pygmies, like Dominic Raab and Liz Truss and so forth, to be telling us how we should, work and make our lives? They talk about productivity, in places like Singapore, South Korea. They haven't competed for jobs themselves internationally. They've all just got a single undergraduate degree and then gone into the pusillanimous world of parliamentary politics. They know nothing about smart working. They think they can lecture us on how the rest of the world behaves.
Well, they certainly do know nothing about graft, which is the word that they used.
Absolutely. Or even smart. I mean, I'll just give you an example. Rees-Mogg, okay, he brought out his book on eminent Victorians about 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Did you read the reviews to that?
I did. I've even got a copy of the book.
Have you, really?
I've even got a copy of the book and paid myself to read it. Amongst the 12 eminent Victorians he writes about, there's only one woman, that's Queen Victoria. Yeah. What about Florence Nightingale? She didn't just have hospitals in Crimea. She became England's finest statistician.
Yeah.
Before her death. What about Elizabeth Garrett Anderson, who pioneered the role of women in medicine? Okay,
Jacob Rees-Mogg is what a stupid person would think an intellectual would be like, and it's what a poor person would think as a posh person would be like. He's just a 6-foot pile of tics and affectations. No, we're going to have to lose you there. I'm sorry, mate. That's the kind of language we can't have on the radio. Did not expect that from him. Wow, he used builder's speak.
Disgusting.
Now, you can hear that kind of language on television after 9 o'clock in the evening. In fact, it's pretty much compulsory after 9 o'clock in the evening. Every single programme has got language like that on TV after 9, including the news, if you can believe that. Here is the bleeping news, they say. But not on the radio, apparently. You can see somebody say it, but you can't hear somebody say it. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Anyway, better luck next time, mate. You get a red mark against your name. Henry texts, Hi, Nick. It looks like the Tories who wrote that book of gaslighting are longing to get back to the feudal system. My observation is that Brits are expected to work overtime without pay, get no compensation for working time or cost for their commute, and should accept that a role with a week's notice is a permanent position. This is ridiculous, says Henry. That is, I believe, one of the 2 major reasons why we were persuaded to leave the European Union. So that this red tape, this bonfire of red tape that they were talking about, that we were sold as it was going to free us. No. It's going to chain us. That's what the red tape is. The red tape was protecting us from abuse and mistreatment. If they can just get rid of the red tape, then they can have us all working 0 hours at minimum pay, and all of the profits can go to management and shareholders. Because at the moment, those pesky workers, they do insist on being paid for what they do. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's, this is money that could be distributed as bonuses to management. So these blooming workers, they need to be stripped of all of their rights, and they can only do that outside the EU. That was reason one. Reason two is the EU is going to bring in some sort of checks and oversight on tax havens. And the rich, the only thing that they appear to be remotely interested in is paying less tax. It seems to be not just their number one priority, it's their only priority. And so that would be a much easier proposition outside the EU. Those were the reasons we left the EU. But they can't sell it to us for those reasons, so they came up with a lot of other stuff. Sovereignty, they kept saying over and over again. And you ask some furious Brexiter about the positives of leaving the EU, and that's one of the things that they'll say first. And then you ask them what that means, and you're greeted with, you've got no idea. It just sounds good. Basically, the idea is that your life is not as you wished it would be because the people below you are dragging you down. Whereas the truth of it is, it's not the people below you that are the problem, it's the people above you that are pushing you down. They just don't want you to realise what's happening. And too many people don't question it. They just read what they already agree with. They push the opinion that they've already arrived at, and just it's reinforced over and over and over again. So that's what you get. So, sovereignty. We're free now. Really, your life has changed in some deep and fundamental way. Now that you're free, you're floating free. We've been had. This country has been had. It's I think it's fundamentally a coup has happened. We just don't realise it yet. Well, many of us don't. Henry says, looks like the Tories who wrote that book of gaslighting I've just read that one. I'm repeating myself. Jim says, instead of giving MPs a pay rise, how about if we all stand outside our front doors and give them a clap? Good idea, Jim. Every Thursday for a couple of months, we'll stand outside our front doors for a minute and bang pots together. There you are. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I still haven't told you about my dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg, have I? You must remind me to tell you before I go. I wonder if I'll have another one tonight. Maybe I'll have a dream about his nanny. I also want to talk about I'm running out of time. I want to talk about the conference today. Oh, my God. I know what they're going to sell the next election on, because we've heard it already today. One word. One four-letter word. And they said it over and over and over again. This is what they're planning now. This is how bereft they are of ideas. This is where we are now as a country. They're going to sell it to us on this one four-letter word. And I'll come to that in a minute. Unless I forget. Detroit. Roland.
Hi. Don't forget to tell your story about Moggy.
I'll try not to forget. I'm writing it down as we speak.
Good. I just wanted to let you guys know that where I live in Detroit, and this might not be the same for the whole of the United States, but here in Michigan, if when you start a new job, but you're lucky if you get 5 days holiday a year.
Yeah, Americans get no holiday.
None.
Like two weeks
and
maximum.
There's also a system called fire at will, which means they can fire you at will for any reason, any time.
Yeah. This is where we're going, kids. It's the American system of winner takes it all, rather than the European system, which spreads the wealth around a bit more evenly. Have you gone?
No, I'm still here.
Oh. What are you doing?
I was waiting for you to finish.
Oh, right. I'm done. Sounds like you're cooking. You're like mucking about in the kitchen.
I'm about to start cooking.
Well, what are you going to cook?
How did you know?
What are you going to cook?
I'm doing chicken thighs.
Oh. They should call it something else. Well, well, you should have said. They should call it something else. Thighs. I don't want to eat thighs. That sounds like
It's the best. It's the best part of the chicken.
Oh,
it's boneless and skinless.
Absolutely isn't.
Absolutely is.
Well,
if you had it cooked by Roland London, it is.
Oh, okay then. All right. Well, I'll be waiting. If it's not here within 30 minutes, it's free. All right.
Hey, you are by far my partner's favourite presenter on LBC. We listen to you as we drive up into the thumb here in the mitten.
Okay. Well, that's great. What about you? My partner.
The jury's still out.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thanks a lot, Roland. I want mine extra crispy. 0345 6060 973. Nick tweets, my impression of Jacob Rees-Mogg is frighteningly accurate. It's so good that I have to ask if they've ever been seen in the same room at the same time. Yes, in my dream. I'll get to that in a minute. Carnforth. Hey, Penny.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Great, mate.
Nice to hear the MPs are all queuing up to help out with the lorry driver shortage, eh?
Yeah, sure they are.
Yes. Yeah, and you just can't believe how dreadful that lot are, that ridiculous...
They get worse and worse with every passing day.
Yeah, it does just get worse and worse. I mean, really, obviously, the way British industry is run is they don't put enough money into research, and no wonder, we're not as productive as other countries.
No,
but
that is the reason why we have among the lowest level of reinvestment into businesses in the Western world, with the result that we have among the lowest levels of productivity. It's not the people, it's not the workers, it's the management.
No, and it's not the hours they work either. We work far longer hours than a lot of other countries in Europe.
Correct.
In fact, our carers regularly work 15-hour days, sometimes with no breaks, and that's because they're so short-staffed at the moment.
Right.
Obviously made worse by Brexit.
And that's what they want. They want you to work until you drop for a minimum wage. They want you constantly desperate and pliable. Yeah,
definitely. And also that nonsense about, they said, the benefits were just too generous. I think you must be joking. We have some of the lowest benefit rates in Europe and the lowest old age pension in Europe. In comparable European countries.
The welfare is too generous. Said millionaires on 85 grand a year plus $250,000 in expenses. Yeah, too generous.
Yes. And they're unbelievable. Really, they're just constantly. They are just gaslighting us, aren't they? Really, and. People still seem to. I mean, like that woman that came on your show last night and said, life was
mean.
Always, yes, you've been mean, and life was always better when there was a Tory government since the 1970s." And I was thinking, well, I remember the 1970s. Actually, I seem to remember the health service was a lot better in the 1970s than it is now. At least you didn't have to wait. I had to call an ambulance last weekend. Actually, it was,
and it still hasn't got there.
No, just about. Well, I was having really, really bad chest pains, and I'd been told by 111, a doctor on 111, to ring for an ambulance. And they said, it could be up to 7 hours.
Wow.
They said, it probably won't be, and if you get any worse, just ring us back. And actually, it was an hour and a half, and this was having really bad chest pains. Fortunately, it turned out not to be a heart attack, but obviously that's why the doctor said, no, dial 999 now and straight away. It was something else to do with a procedure I'd had a couple of days before. But it could have been a heart attack, and if it had, I'd probably be dead. I probably wouldn't be talking to you now.
Yeah.
And the guys in the ambulance, 2 lovely paramedics took me, and they hadn't had a break either. They were so busy, they hadn't been able to stop for their break.
This is where we're going. We are going towards where America is now. If you are rich, you'll be just fine. If you aren't, be afraid. Irani, I'm past a break. I've got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Yeah, sure, why not? Sid texts, I remember a headline describing Corbyn as the most dangerous man in Britain. It is excruciating. The Tories are loathsome, says Sid. Well, don't sit on the fence there, Sid. Tell us what you think. Chris texts, seriously, Nick, back to the Boris bashing. You are so Labour, it's unbelievable. You definitely didn't vote Green Party, not now, not ever. I did actually, Chris. Yes, I did. Just because you think something doesn't make you an expert. How can you possibly know how I voted? I did vote Green. A couple of times to my recent memory. Not last time. Last time I voted Lib Dem.
Groovy.
Because they were the most likely to beat the you-know-whos. Back to the Boris bashing. Oh, leave him alone. He's doing his best. Hey, Chris. These fans just will... It's like a cult. They are all in. Like a poker player with a hand of a pair of twos and all of their money on the table in front of them. I still haven't told you about my dream with Smug. I'll do that in a minute. I promise I'll do it in a minute. By the way, if you missed my unhinged rant about Jacob Rees-Mogg last night, I do believe that the podcast is available right now. We stick these shows up the internet. We take the news and the ads out. It takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and you'll still be breaking up your furniture to set on fire to heat your house. Because you won't be able to afford your fuel bill. Your fuel bill. That part was understood, right? Maybe not. It's called Nick Abbott The Whole Show. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. Andy says, Nick, do you think these people who say the British prefer a nice lie into hard work are talking about you? What, me? After all, you don't start work till 10 at night. Well, that is true, yeah. I work a 3-hour day. Don't start picking on me. Chester. Hello, Richard.
Hi, you all right, Nick?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Right, yeah, it's just about Neston, Parkgate. It's actually quite an important nature reserve for birds, so there's going to be a lot of damage.
Oh, you're talking about this, right, there's a fire. It's not still burning, surely?
I think they've got it under control. Some of the updates, they put fire breaks in to try and stop the wind from blowing it and making it worse.
Right.
So
but they're
going to be there for the next few hours.
It's marshland. You'd think it would be wet.
Well, yeah, you'd think so, but yeah, apparently it's going to have caused a lot of damage, like to the wildlife, some endangered bird species, birds of prey, things like that.
Right.
So it's a very popular spot. There's an old ice cream shop there that's been there for probably decades. That people take their families to walk the dogs.
And what's it called
go
again?
Get ice cream. Parkgate in Neston.
Parkgate in Neston, right?
Yeah, it's actually on the D estuary, so it'd be unlikely for Liverpool to see it. So it's facing North Wales. It is.
Oh,
on that part of the peninsula.
Right, Rhyl, Prestatyn, places like that.
Yes, exactly, facing that way. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's bad news. I guess we'll find out more about it come the morning. All right. Yeah. Good work. Thanks a lot, Richard. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Dave texts, another reason for Brexit is removing our freedom of movement so we can't escape their hyper-capitalist hellhole. That's right. Yeah, they're building a wall, just like the person that they base their whole credo on.
I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall.
We thought that it was a wall to keep the people out. Actually, it's worse than that. It's a wall to keep us in. Let's have a mobile. Don't really know where you are. Where are you, Terry?
Aylsham.
Aylsham, right. So, what's up?
Why are people surprised about the P&O workers? This has been going on for 40 years, this hostile environment for working people.
In this country, yeah.
In this country. Why are they all shocked? Oh, all of a sudden, people have got the sack and foreign workers are taking their jobs for less money. Mm. And why are they suddenly shocked? This has been going on for ages.
Well, I think that people might be suddenly realising that all of those promises about leaving the European Union were just a bunch of lies, because as far as I remember, we were leaving the European Union, we were told, because we didn't want foreigners taking our jobs. But look what happens.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it, really?
Yeah, irony. Yeah, that's right. All right, thanks a lot, Terry. 0345 6060 973. Jim texts, productivity isn't just made up of worker input. A country's productivity is also severely impacted by the quality of its infrastructure, like transport networks, healthcare and utilities, all underfunded and falling apart. That's right. Yeah. I mean, compared to Europe, our healthcare particularly is abysmal. I mean, we have among the lowest numbers of hospital beds, the lowest numbers of nurses, the lowest numbers of doctors, of consultants, of you name it. We have the lowest numbers of machines that go bing than pretty much any other country in Europe, which is the reason why you can't get an appointment. You can't see your GP, and you can't see a nurse, and you can't see a consultant, and you absolutely, totally and flat out can't get treated for whatever ails you. We have one of the worst outcomes of most diseases of any major country in the West. If only Jeremy Corbyn hadn't been leading this country for the last 12 years under this disastrous Labour government. Oh, no, that's right. Wasn't him, was it? So it's probably still his fault. Thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn. Bill! You see what you've done? Right, in the next hour, I want to talk about this campaign. It started already. It started quietly with Smug on Friday. That bloke. And it ramped up into overdrive today at the Tory party conference, which is going on in Blackpool. I bet most of those people there at the Tory party conference wouldn't be able to point to Blackpool on a map. They had to get driven there. And it's a 4-letter word, and they're going to be peppering us with it. This must be the plan. I wonder what it might be. They've also got a new slogan. So I'll come to that in a minute. And I absolutely flat out and totally will do Jacob Rees-Mogg infesting my mind. I dreamt about him last night. Me and Jacob sitting in a tree. Not like that. So I'll do both of those things and plenty else besides when I come back. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Okie dokie. And I can't stand him.
0345 6060 973. Keith texts, it's called a controlled demolition of the NHS. That's right. People are just skirting the NHS now because they know that their treatment, whatever ails them, is not going to be treated. But, before either it will cure itself or they'll die before they get treated. So they're going private. And that's the plan. It's not a mistake. It's not an error. It's a plan. We're going the way of America because, and I'll say it again, every single thing that our regime do is guided by the principle, what would Donald Trump do?
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
If you just think of every single thing they do and then think, what would Donald Trump do? And it's that. It's whatever they've come up with. Almost like it's, it's a plan. Nathan texts, Patel and Johnson are critical of Putin's regime whilst trying to mimic it. Confused? Yeah, exactly. There's videos going around of people holding up pieces of paper in Red Square or, some other place in Moscow, just in the streets. They're just holding up a blank piece of paper mean, there's that famous one of the woman who held up a paper with the phrase 2 words written on it. And she was arrested immediately in about in about 2 seconds for holding up a piece of paper that said 2 words. It was really, really quickly. And it was a very tiny piece of paper as well. She was being filmed, and just held it up, and the policeman appeared out of nowhere as though by magic. And disappeared her instantly. And now it's got even more surreal than that. People are just holding up blank pieces of paper and getting arrested by the law, which, weirdly, will shortly possibly be happening on the streets of this country. Anything they don't like, 10 years in jail. In Britain. It's a coup. Describe it in another way. Simon says, I would like to play rugby for England. I would do my best, but guess what? That wouldn't be good enough. I'm too fat and over 60. Bojo may be doing his best, but it is still woefully inadequate. You're woefully inadequate, Bodge. What are you going to say about that?
I can't comment on that.
Paul says strong and stable. Remember that one? Yeah, I do. I had a dream about Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Disgusting.
He has infested my brain. Get out of my brain, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, this was because last night I went on an unhinged rant about Smug. I just went on and on and on about him. It seemed to go on forever. And you can hear it, if you want, on the podcast of last night's show. It's on the World Wide Wait. The podcast is called What's Your Problem? No, it's called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show. What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol is the one that I do with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
The one called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show is Nick Abbott's Whole Show.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that is available on the internet. And I've sort of really laid into him because I just had to get it off my chest, because for the last 3 weeks I've been sitting in for Tom, and it's all been the war every day. Every day is going to be the end of the world, and so I couldn't get into the fripperies of life, like tearing a strip off Smug. And so I did it in no uncertain means last night, and it must have affected me personally. Jacob Rees-Mogg has affected me personally. And I had a dream about him last night. It was really bizarre. He gave me a lift in his car, which was very decent of him, considering how beastly I was to him last night during my unhinged rant. And I sat there thinking, this is nice of him. Why is he doing this? You'd think he'd be cross. Like that. He sounds the same no matter what mood he's in, no matter what emotion he's expressing. Like a sort of... like air escaping from a space hopper. Like that. So I was sitting in his car and I thought, this is a bit of a nondescript car. I mean, it wasn't a Bentley or anything like that. By the way, is Steve Allen in the building?
Right now, no.
Yeah, isn't he? Because there's a Bentley the size of an oligarch's yacht parked just outside this building. Some of it, I mean, it's so huge, this car, that some of it's on the pavement. You're not supposed to park on the pavement, Steve. Anyway, it was a nondescript car. I really don't know anything about it. I just sat there and it's a bit sort of grey inside, like he must be, grey inside. He's grey outside and he's grey inside. I mean, can you imagine him red inside? If you cut him in half, just like a puff of dust would come out. That would be it. That would be it. Just a little puff of dust. And a homeless person came up to the car. He wanted some spare change. A little bit of spare change. Have you got 10 pence? A homeless person came up to me last night and said, have you got a pound? Blimey. That's inflation, that is. A pound? Well, I hadn't, because nobody takes money. Nobody carries money anymore. Who's got money anymore? Cash? Ain't got no cash. Do you take cards? It must be terrible for, apart from the not having a roof over your head part, people who are, are homeless and are asking for 10 pence. First of all, 10 pence ain't going to get you nowhere these days. So you've got to ask for £1, which seems like a bit much, doesn't it? £1? There's a war on. But nobody's got £1 anymore. I mean, I may have an emergency 20 about my person, but I usually leave the house and forget to take any cash at all, because whoever uses it anymore. The cashless society is here, which of course means the state has ever more increasing control over you. Just think about that for a second, because they switched off people's credit cards in Russia. I know there was a bit of there was corollaries about it, wasn't there? There was, if you got the credit card outside Russia, you can't spend it inside Russia, and you've got the credit card inside Russia, you can't spend it outside Russia. And it seemed like they were doing something without really doing something, because if you really want to discombobulate people in Russia, just turn their credit cards off. But they didn't. It was like, if you got it in Russia, you can't spend it outside Russia, like that. But that does mean that not just the state can remove you of your ability to pay for anything, a company can. They can just think it up and do it. That is, I think people are like this dawning realisation that we are now under complete control. If we step out of line, they can just remove our ability to buy anything. I mean, have you got any cash on you right now? Have you got any cash about the house? Have you got enough cash to last you a week? I mean, think if Vlad the Insaner managed to turn our electricity off. If he turned our electricity off, that would mean that the cash machines wouldn't work. All he'd have to do is switch our internet off and they wouldn't work. Have you got enough cash to keep you going? Of course you haven't. No one has. Very, very alarming. Anyway, I was sitting in the car with Jacob Rees-Mogg. It was a nondescript car. Don't ask me what it was. I did wonder, why is he driving a car like this? Not his style, I thought. Like Model T Ford, perhaps, or a penny farthing is more his thing. You know, something performatively old. But no, it was just sort of grey. I think there were fabric seats.
Disgusting.
Fabric. Maybe it was a rental. Anyway, this homeless person came up and knocked on the window. Have you got some spare change, please? And Jacob Rees-Mogg drove away. Because that's what Jesus would do. And he took me to his flat. I don't know why. I don't know why I was in the car, and I don't know why he took me to his flat. But it was a tiny flat. And I came in and I thought, this is a bit rubbish. Why is a bloke with your means living like this? It looked a bit like, you know when you go to B&Q and they've got the homewares department and they lay out a room to show you what their furniture would look like in a room setting? It looked like that. Does B&Q still exist? Is B&Q still a thing?
I think so.
Really? Are they still? Because if they've ceased to exist as an ongoing concern, that's the reason why. Their furniture's rubbish. If they still exist, or at least it was in my dream. In real life, of course, I'm sure it is beyond improvement. I'm sure it's excellent in every regard. But the front room of his, he probably didn't call it a front room, does he? He probably calls it the salon. It was absolutely microscopic, and I thought, wow, this is dreadful, Jacob. What are you living like this for? And I sat down on his rubbish grey sofa, and there was a blue mat in front of me, and he seemed inordinately proud of it. In fact, he smoothed it out with his bony hands. And it was a shag pile thing that looked like a bath mat. I don't know why he was proud of it, and I don't know why he smoothed it out, but he just wanted to draw attention to it. And I thought, look at you and your cheap mat. So I was sitting there on this terrible sofa, looking at the cheap mat that he just smoothed out with his bony hands, and he comes in with a teapot with 2 spouts on it. What's that about? There was one spout and another one. Couple of spouts. And he said, shall I be mother? And I said, oh, all right then. And he was trying to pour the tea from the pot with 2 spouts into a cup, but for some reason, he wasn't holding the cup with his other hand. He was balancing it on his pencil-like knees. And I thought, he's going to make a mess, so I'll help him out. And I had to rescue it. And so I held the cup as he poured it. And then his wife came in, or, whoever that woman was that he hangs out with in my dream. And she poured milk first. Is that the correct way of doing it? Milk first? I've got no idea. Who cares? It's just tea. People obsess about that. Oh, no, you can't have the milk first because, that's disgusting. It's still tea. Still tastes like hot dirt. But at that point, I thought, I really shouldn't be here. Why am I here in Jacob Rees-Mogg's tiny flat with this stupid blue mat? And who is this woman? So I left. And I found myself outside, wandering around, and I realised that I'd left my phone in his flat. See, the detail of this is just ridiculous. But I thought, I can't go back because I just don't want to go back to that flat anymore. Like, why am I hanging out with Jacob Rees-Mogg? And so I just abandoned my phone. And because I didn't have my phone, I didn't know how to get a bus back to where I should be. And there was a bus stop up ahead. So I went there, and Maurizio Pochettino was sitting at the bus stop. Figure that one out. Maurizio Pochettino out of football. The ex-manager of Tottenham Hotspur was sitting at the bus stop, and it's dark, and the streets were totally deserted. And I asked Maurizio Pochettino how to get a bus to where I live. And he didn't know. But he gave me a magazine. And it was one of those freebie magazines you get through the post through your door, which are mostly estate agents' ads. And something had been written on the front of it in biro, but I couldn't read what it was. And that's when the dream ended. That's when I woke up and said, I've been spending time in a closed environment with Jacob Rees-Mogg. So I've got no idea what was written on the front of that magazine, but it could be very important. I need Leonardo DiCaprio to send me back into the dream so I can read what top football manager Maurizio Pochettino was trying to tell me. But I've been calling all day, and Leonardo DiCaprio won't return my call. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC.
Never without your bag for life? Locally grown veggies on the dinner table? Or always recycle your plastic waste? You already go the extra mile for the environment. Now your savings can make a difference too. With NS&I Green Savings Bonds, you can save up to £100,000 and help to make the environment greener, cleaner and more sustainable. Save today at nsni.com.
Stepping out of a hot, steamy shower, then wrapping yourself in a warm, soft, snuggly towel. At Swale Heating, we help you stay warm. Our expert engineers install efficient boilers, such as Worcester Bosch, with warranties of up to 10 years. And if it's an emergency, we can get the job done within 24 hours. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Your health is exactly that. Yours. So if you've been worried about ongoing aches and pains, You don't have to wait, and you don't need a GP's referral to see a specialist either. Get the accessible, affordable and personal care you need as soon as you get in touch with the London Clinic. This is your health, your way. The London Clinic. Search the London Clinic Your Health and contact us today.
At Honda, we listen to drivers for inspiration, even when they say things we can't play on the radio. Like when a pulls out without indicating, or when a crosses the road without checking first, or when a doesn't understand how a roundabout works. That's why we developed a collision sensor system, which detects risks and automatically brakes. And to keep all family road trips family-friendly, it's included as standard with the new Honda CR-V Hybrid. Honda, the power of dreams.
Hi, my name's Adrian. I've been in a wheelchair for literally half my life, and with the support of some amazing care workers like Ross, I've built my own business, I've got my confidence back, and I still make the best jerk chicken.
I'm Ross, and I love my job as a care worker because I support people to reach their goals and dreams. I love the teamwork, developing new skills and doing new things together every day.
Search Care Careers now for a job made with understanding, made with teamwork, made with care.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Nick Abbott.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Honestly, dear, I have no idea. Paul tweets, that Jacob dream seemed more like a nightmare. Did you wake up in a cold sweat? No, I woke up all squidgy. Squidgy and warm. Thank you, Jacob. You can infest my dreams any time you like. Had a great time. Ronatex, I wonder what Freud would have to say about your dream of a haunted pencil. Well, it depends. Which Freud? There's loads of them. Wayne tweets, why are we smoking? We are trying to live through a conservative regime without clawing someone's eyes out. We need something to take the edge off. Well, that is true.
Want to score some pot?
Other drugs are available.
Booze.
Just say no. Just say no thank you. I mean, good manners don't cost nothing, do they?
Be polite!
Let's have Hornchurch. Glenn.
Good morning, Nick.
Yes, Glenn.
It has been many years since I've phoned you.
Oh, yes.
But on your recommendation, I bought that film Idiocracy.
Ah.
I watched it once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch it again later on today because I'm sure it will have more relevance with the worldwide situation now.
It certainly will.
So I thank you for recommending the film.
There's something else that you should watch. There's a film that's been, I mentioned this last night, there's a film that's been made just recently with, as a matter of fact, coincidentally, Leonardo DiCaprio in it. It's called Don't Look Up.
Okay, I've written that down, and I will get a copy. I'll order one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
If you got Netflix, it's on. I think it's on Netflix.
I was going to check that first.
It's very, very good, and it's along the same sort of lines. If you don't know, Idiocracy was made by the same guy that did Beavis and Butthead, but it has little to do with Beavis and Butthead. It's essentially a comedy about a dystopian future that really rapidly turned into a documentary about the present.
But I think much like your radio program, it's essential viewing, listening, and needs another replay.
Yeah, it's educational.
I will get it, and but I don't know whether I'm going to be able to afford to pay for it because I've got to pay for this telephone call as well.
So, haven't we called you back?
No.
What?
But such was my want to get through that I listened to you recalling that dream of yours.
Yeah, bizarre.
What a strange man you are at times.
Thanks.
But I hope your partner can suffer the way you must be sleeping these days.
I'm sleeping just fine. Me and Jacob. We're doing just fine, Glenn. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Idiocracy. I've been banging on about that film for years. Now, it's not a particularly intelligent film, but it is funny. I would recommend drinking a couple of pints, getting yourself in the mood, and then lying back and enjoying it. It is as it sounds. We are living in an idiocracy. Stupid, stupid, stupid. We keep doing stupid things, and we keep voting stupid ways, and we keep getting the same reason. And the overriding reason for all of that is
I love the poorly educated.
Bingo. Watch Idiocracy and then watch Don't Look Up. Very, very good. I mean, it doesn't say very much that's positive about the human race, but it's definitely worth your while. Paul tweets, that Jacob Dreams... No, I read that. I read the Freud one. I read the smoking one. I'm way ahead of schedule. Daniel says, hi, Nick, I found something less useful than bodge. A hotel iron. Like the man itself, it just... it just dribbles and splutters, but achieves very little.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Stella says, when you put a clown into a castle, he doesn't become a king, the palace becomes a circus. Ain't that right, Budge?
I can't comment on that.
It's a yes. I want to talk about the Conservative Party conference today. Have you been seeing anything that's come out of the Conservative Party conference? I mean, some of it's absolutely jaw-dropping. How do these people live with themselves? How do they wake up in the morning and think, yes, this is what I'm doing for a living? Stella says, when you put a... Oh, I read that. I should delete them as I read them. That would be the efficient thing to do. Trevor tweets, based on the recommendations, you need to watch God Bless America. Oh, really? I don't know anything about that, but yeah, okay. It sounds funny. I'm smiling already. James says, the new Conservative conference slogan, getting the job done. I bet Johnson came up with that one on the toilet. Or was it Gove? It's too syllable-y. Because first of all, it's four words, and that is a big no. And furthermore...
No.
3 words, 3-word slogans, not 4. And getting 2 syllables. So you got 5 syllables. Wrong. Plus, it's got the word job in it.
Disgusting.
I don't know who came up with that, but they're an idiot. Can't concentrate on any other word but the word job. Paul says, while listening to Boris Johnson and punching myself to distract myself from the pain of listening to Boris Johnson, I noticed that he knows a lot about what Mad Vlad Putin is like. Where does he get all that personal information? Gosh, I wonder. I'm thinking... Yeah, there was secret meetings. I am not going to have enough time to fit any of this stuff in these 2 shows. But the Labour Party has accused Bodger Johnson of deliberately hiding details of meetings at his country residence Chequers. Deliberately hiding the details of meetings at his country residence in Chequers. Isn't that surprising?
No.
A source with links to the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office told Open Democracy that there were internal concerns about Chequers being used as an undocumented channel for Conservative Party business. Angela Rayner, out of the Labour Party, said it was deeply concerning that vital transparency data was being covered up to avoid scrutiny of who the Prime Minister was entertaining. Seriously, has there been a Russian coup in this country? And we've been too distracted by the dear leader's hair and his bumptious demeanour to bring your own bottle to business meetings. Is that what we've been distracted by? Angela Rayner, Labour's deputy leader, said, what has the Prime Minister got to hide? With questions raised about Boris Johnson's secret meetings with Russian oligarchs, it is crucial that the Cabinet Office releases this data to the public. And will they?
No.
Of course not. The Ministerial Code states that Chequers should not be used for party political work. When the Prime Minister hosts Conservative Party or personal events at Chequers, it should be at his expense with, as the code states, no cost falling to the public purse. Any comments, Bodger?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Sure you did. Details of guests who visited Chequers and Chevening, the Foreign Secretary's grace and favour estate, were previously routinely published. But the practice appears to have ended shortly after David Cameron won a Conservative majority in 2015.
I think this is nonsense.
Official transparency data has not been updated since December 2015. We've got no idea what they're doing. The Prime Minister has been criticised for his relationship with Evgeny Lebedev, the Russian-born media mogul. Johnson reportedly overrode security concerns to give Lebedev a seat in the House of Lords. Of course, he said he didn't, but then he also said this.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Unbelievable. Shortly before Bodge won the Conservative leadership contest and became Prime Minister in 2019, Open Democracy published the first full details of his visit to Lebedev's villa in Umbria, in Italy. This week, Labour wrote to the Home Office asking if any record of this meeting was kept. No. Open Democracy has previously revealed that in March 2020, Lebedev and Johnson had a personal meeting just days before the COVID-19 lockdown. One Conservative MP, serially critical of Johnson's record as Prime Minister, told Open Democracy, Boris plays by his own rules. If we did not know that at the beginning, we know it now. He is reluctant to use his own money in anything connected to his role as PM. Johnson, of course, has form when it comes to delaying the release of potentially damaging information. In March 2019, Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee examined Russian interference in British politics. The 50-page Russia report was sent to Johnson in number 10 in October 2019. 2019. It was eventually published, heavily redacted, in July 2020. The Russia report found that, quotes, a lot of Russians with very close links to Putin were well integrated into the UK business and social scene. And Bodger Johnson refused to act on its conclusions that the government must take necessary measures to challenge the impunity of Putin-linked elites. Can anybody think why Boris Johnson would refuse to act on those conclusions? Although it is illegal for any Russian national to donate to a UK political party, those with dual UK-Russian status or UK nationals with significant links to Putin's Kremlin have donated to the Conservative Party in recent years. Labour claims that Russian-linked donors have given close to £2 million to the Conservatives since Johnson became leader. There's 2 million reasons right there. Prime Ministers have often entertained guests at Chequers, of course, but it's usually not a list of names like Alexei, Leonid, Nikita, Dmitry, Igor, Ivan, Mikhail, Valentin and Pasha.
Correct.
Look at the time. It's somewhat after 12:30. The news headlines with Serena Farrow.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I played that one already. I'll choose another one at random.
Yes, hello. I've been waiting for you. Hello.
There you are. Look at that switchboard. Absolutely dead. Is anybody remotely interested in anything I'm saying?
No.
Felicity emails, hey Nick, have you looked outside? Look up, I double dare you, it's a full moon. A full moon? Where are all the crazy callers tonight? Well, that's a good point. I parked the car earlier on and the moon was just rising over the horizon. And, of course, when it's at the horizon, it looks huge. It's an illusion. It's called the moon illusion. And it looked absolutely massive right there over the city of London with all the buildings. I was going to take a picture, but I thought, oh, never mind. I've seen the moon before. I don't need a picture of it. But I was going to, but I didn't. Sue emails, I'd like to know who's going to pay for all the knighthoods now that the oligarchs have had their assets frozen. Well, I think there's a lot of things that are going to be in want of cash now that the oligarchs have had their assets frozen. Of course, they haven't had their assets frozen. We gave them just plenty of time to move all their assets out. All their cash, anything that was liquid, they just skipped out of the country because our government, for some strange reason, gave them plenty of time, loads of notice, to get all of their money out. It's probably residing in some Swiss bank right now, or in one of those dots in the middle of the ocean that have got a Union Jack fluttering from a government building. You know, those dodgy tax havens. It's what we do for a living. Bodger gave them plenty of time to move their cash out. It's just the stuff that they couldn't actually pick up and leave. They couldn't transfer at the press of a button. That's causing them problems. But it ain't no bother to them that they can't move a £100 million house out. What's £100 million to somebody who's got 100 billion quid? But, there's just loads of things, like all those accountants, all those dodgy accountants in shiny buildings in the City of London. What are they going to do for money now? All those lawyers, all those evil, nasty, twisted lawyers that keep all of this going, that grease the wheels, make sure that journalists don't ask any impertinent questions. Where are they going to get their cash from now? They'll have to actually do proper work. Banks are going to be really upset. They're going to have, they're going to be making only hundreds of millions, not thousands of millions. There's going to be a lot of, and those people selling handbags for 50 grand each down Bond Street. They're going to be upset. You wait till they open the doors and they don't have, people with a V in their name coming through. There's just taking whole shelves full of stuff. Declan emails, I just realised why this Tory party suddenly seems to like Ukrainian refugees. They have blue passports. Liam says, listed below are Jacob Rees-Mogg's achievements since he's been in office. And that's where the email ends. I can't think of a single solitary thing. Not one single thing that he has achieved since he's been in office. I mean, can you think of anything? One single thing. Go on, I double dare you. Anything at all. Why do the people of Somerset keep voting for him? Why? What are you getting out of it? It's mystifying. It really is. Do you really think that he has your best interest? Poor people of this country, do you think that millionaires and billionaires have your best interests at heart? What is it that makes you think that? Steve says, we need strong leaders. I personally think that Mr. Mogg as PM and Mrs. Widdicombe for Chancellor, we might just have a chance. What do you think? Anne Widdicombe. That woman. Andy says, looks like the Tories have deliberately used their spring conference to link the situation in Ukraine with their own divisive obsessions. Utterly inappropriate and actually quite appalling. Correct, Amundo. That's right. I'll get into that in a second. But just before that, they're in Blackpool, of course. And a Blackpool South MP was in the news this week, Scott Benton. You know Scott Benton, don't you? Bill! Yeah, that's him. A Conservative MP suggested that the best opportunity for people to cope with soaring bills is to get a job. Now, that would not perhaps be so controversial if his intervention had not come after the SNP's Stuart Hosey had read out a letter in the House that he had received from a constituent living with her disabled partner in a single-income household who had done everything in her power to cut costs. The unnamed individual could not afford to turn on the storage heaters due to the sheer cost, the Dundee East MP said. SNP's Stuart Hosey explained that his constituent's standing charge had more than doubled. Why has that happened, by the way? What's the price of oil got to do with the standing charge? That's just you renting the whatever it is that squirts the stuff up your house. Why has that gone up, by the way? Mr. Hosey, out of the SNP, explained that his constituents' standing charge had more than doubled, even though electricity all came from renewables. Why has the electricity from renewables gone up so much, you might be asking yourself? He added that she had been flatly denied a pay rise or increase in expenses for her work-from-home job. He said, "This is someone who has already done everything she can and yet has been hammered by energy price rises." Blackpool South MP Scott Benton, a Conservative, suggested that the best opportunity for people to cope with soaring bills is to get a job. Wow. He said, "It would be remiss of me not to point out that the state can only do so much." Yeah, I mean, they can only write cheques for £108 million to their mates and donors for PPE that either doesn't show up or doesn't work and is completely useless, to the point that they're burning tons of it every day now just to get rid of it. That is just good value for money. All those cheques for the weirdly precise amount of £108 million. We can afford no end of that because it's going to the right people. But you poor people who can't afford to turn your heating on, well, I'm sorry, but we've done enough. I mean, you could repurpose the time that you ordinarily spend asleep to get a second job. Why are you slacking for 8 hours a day doing nothing in bed? Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick.
Mike.
Yeah, Tory MPs, they claim their fuel back from the government.
That's right.
Absolute bloody cheek. Anyway, getting on to, you seen Bodger's speech today?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bream. You'd have thought he'd left fish alone after what he's done for the fishing industry.
I actually didn't see that. I have a bream.
I have a bream. Yeah, he was running down the beach, and he came across some people digging bait.
Yeah.
So he stopped to talk to them, and they said they were digging lugworms. Well, you can see him taking an interest in that in case he has a cabinet reshuffle in the near future. But then the bloke explained to him that he needed lugworms to catch bream. So then at the conference he came out with, "I have a bream," which is absolutely bizarre. He also came out saying about what the Tory government had done for the Northern Powerhouse Railway. He cancelled the flaming project. It's only going so far. The Northern Powerhouse Railway got cancelled.
Right, yeah, the branch, yes.
Yeah, and the bit to Bradford and Leeds, and got the cross one that went from Manchester to Hull.
Right.
He cancelled the bit that went to Bradford. He stopped the other one short at Nottingham, and it didn't go all the way up to Leeds.
Yeah, but Mike.
And there he was.
Yeah, Mike. These are only facts. He has alternative facts,
which he borrowed from the ginger lunatic. Alternative facts. But all it was, when you listen to it in detail, we are gonna do more offshore wind. We are gonna dig more.
Yeah.
We're gonna dig more gas and oil out of the North Sea.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do nuclear. We're gonna do this, gonna do that, gonna do the other. There's nothing real in the whole thing.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's actually worse than that. I'll come to that in a minute. But thanks a lot, Mike. He called you ginger, Donny.
Don't be rude.
0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. LBC.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
So they're having a Conservative Party conference, and they each and every one of them will have chosen their most nubile assistant and made sure that they get adjoining rooms in the hotel.
Disgusting.
I betcha. What happens in Blackpool stays in Blackpool. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, the Brains Truss, has called for Britain's so-called culture wars to be cancelled. The party that is constantly whining about things being cancelled wants to cancel the culture wars. Rees-Mogg said the same thing yesterday, almost as though a focus group-approved memo has gone round. Here's the thing, though. If they want everyone to stop having culture war arguments, why do they keep bringing it up? The Brains Trust said it's time to end and shut down ludicrous debates on pronouns. Liz Truss is the actual government's equalities minister. The equalities minister doesn't want people to feel as though they are equal in some way, because some people's feelings are more important, said the equalities minister. It's also very, what would Donald Trump do? He'd appoint someone to a department that is ideologically opposed to what that department is supposed to be doing.
Don't be rude.
Like appointing an oil baron to be to the Green Energy Department, or Colonel Sanders to promote veganism. Liz the Brains Trust, the actual equalities minister, said the constant question and introspection needed to cease. No more thinking for yourself. That's right out. No more reflective thoughts. No more looking at yourself or hippie meditation. Groovy. All thoughts must be controlled, said Liz Truss, the Minister for Controlling Thoughts. In a speech to the Vladimir Putin Memorial Conservative Party Spring Conference in Blackpool, sponsored by Sberbank, Liz Truss said the UK's response to the crisis in Ukraine should mean a restoration of pride in British values. No one has done more for refugees from the war in Ukraine than this Conservative government, right up to but not including actually helping. And no country has given friendly oligarchs more time to spirit their wealth out of the country before pretending to crack down hard on them. God, fair makes you proud to be a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kremlin, don't it?
No.
You see, the problem is that people keep thinking for themselves about history rather than reading from government-approved volumes on how unimprovably great Britain has always been. There have been recent calls to reassess the reputations of key British figures, including, but not limited to, Winston Churchill, for views that they held which are deemed incompatible with the modern day. You know, views like starving millions of people by routing food away from them while calling them the beastliest people in the world next to the Germans, and saying things like black people aren't as capable as white people, and those in colonised countries who didn't like being ruled by a foreign nation are savages armed with ideas. Stuff like that. And don't forget, the actual British people voted him, Winston Churchill, out of office before the war was completely over. But, you know, I suppose those British people weren't really British enough, as they hadn't learned what was happening to them in 1945 from government-approved textbooks written 70 years later. When Churchill was the actual leader of this country, people then weren't so uncritical of him as those stoking the culture wars on the right are today. Almost as if you're a traitor if you weren't born after 1950. Pretty rich of the right-wingers today to call people who doubt he was a saint traitors when those who actually lived under his rule didn't think he was a saint. And they're upset about road names and buildings undergoing name changes due to links with slave traders, which the Tories seem to be weirdly incensed about. I mean, they couldn't care less about some street name in a place that they couldn't locate with a sat-nav. It just gives them something to distract their fans from when they've been caught out partying like it's New Year's Eve while they fined us for meeting one other person on a park bench. Liz Truss, who is the actual occupant of what has become the comedy role of Foreign Secretary, told the conference, now is the time to end the culture of self-doubt, the constant self-questioning and introspection, the ludicrous debates about language, statues and pronouns. Yeah, agreed. Let's stop talking about it. Some statues shouldn't be there. Take them down. End of discussion. She said, our history, warts and all, make us what we are today. That's right. So talking about it and recognising it shouldn't be something that makes you an enemy of the state. She said we live in a great country a great democracy and we should be proud of it. Correct. We shouldn't be working to undermine it by accepting vast amounts of Russian cash from shady individuals doing Putin's dirty work and allowing us to be destabilised from within. We shouldn't be trying to hobble democracy by trying to make it as difficult as possible for those least likely to support the Tories to be able to vote, by doing things like introducing ID checks, which solve a problem that doesn't exist. And we shouldn't allow the vital infrastructure of this nation to be used against us by selling it off, no questions asked, to foreign interests who only have short-term profits in mind. In short, this great country shouldn't have raw sewage pumped all over it as the current regime allows. And, of course, his imperial bodgeness spoke.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He had disarranged himself specially for the event, his hair mussed and his suit hanging off him. It looked like a bag of sprouting potatoes. And here's why I know that they're saying we must end the culture war is the new culture war, by constantly going on about how we should stop going on about it. Bodge said, we don't need to be woke, we just want to be free. What the hell is he talking about? They don't actually need to make any sense now, it's just a collection of buzzwords. Woke, sovereignty, a dinghy. That farcical, soulless void that is the Brexit minister Jacob Rees-Mogg was at it too. He'd read the memo as well, or he had somebody read it to him. And he whittled on about it was time to get away from the wokery that has beset huge sections of society. Only because you lot keep going on about it. Like someone thinking of someone else's feelings is an existential threat to society, you constipated ghoul. He probably bested anything he has ever said on any subject ever, did Bodge. And you could see him gird himself before he said it. I mean, there was a pause in his delivery, as though he was thinking, OK, here we go. And then he sped up, as though he could just sprint through the next bit and no one outside the hall would notice that he'd finally taken leave of any sense that he might actually be a decent, honourable person. He compared the struggle of the people of Ukraine, the bombs, the death, the misery and the horror, to us leaving the European Union.
What?
He actually said that out loud. He said, the instinct of the people of this country, like the people of Ukraine, is to choose freedom every time. When the British people voted for Brexit in such large numbers, I don't believe it was that they were remotely hostile to foreigners. It's because they wanted to be free to do things differently and for this country to be able to run itself. Wow. You sad excuse for a human being, Bodge.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
In a packed list of shameful outbursts, that is possibly the worst thing you've ever said. First off, the Russia report that he buried pointed the finger at the Russian leader. The report said no one in government knew if Russia interfered in or sought to influence the referendum because they did not want to know, said Stuart Hosey, an SNP MP who sits on the cross-party committee. He said the UK government have actively avoided looking for evidence that Russia interfered. We were told that we hadn't seen any evidence, but that's meaningless if they hadn't looked for it. And while all the Tories were throwing their doors open to anyone with a huge bank balance and a Russian accent, no opportunity was lost in ingratiating themselves with the cronies of the Putin regime. And if they really didn't know why all those Russians were so keen to make their acquaintance, then I've got a bridge over the Moskva River I'd like to sell them, because they must be the most gullible people on earth. So which is it, Bodge? Stupid or corrupt?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
I'm going to be back tonight at 10 if you stick around. Ian Payne is here at 4, but first, it's Clyde Bull.
Nick, thank you. And we'll talk more about Boris Johnson and what he's been saying about Ukraine and Brexit coming up after the news. Plus, William and Kate's Royal Human Kate's Royal, 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 Human Kate's Royal.